Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, I'm not going to make you wait 11 years. How's it going?
Well, Tony, it is the show we have been waiting since, I don't know, we were slightly less old to do. EA Sports College Football is back. They released a trailer on Friday. Got a chance to watch that and have some thoughts, have some excitement, have to figure out when I'm going to go buy a video game system now, because it's been the last one I owned was a PS2, and well, I think I'm going to have to go get one now.
You know what? I'm just going to advise you, go ahead and skip the PS3 and the PS4. Just go straight to the 5 or get yourself an Xbox. So yes, the trailer is dropped yesterday. I believe the release date was announced of July 19th. However, brilliantly, EA has decided to allow you to pay more to get some extra bonuses, but also to then get the game 3 days early, which is spectacular marketing, because that's all it took to sell me on paying more for the same game. I can get it 3 days early. I'm all in on that. And it takes me back, harkens back to the olden days when I had a mom and pop shop hookup in like Hilliard, to where I could get it on like Sunday, because it was always released on a Tuesday, and they didn't know any better. So they would just, sell these things a couple of days early, and you got to brag, hey, look at me playing with what would have been at that point, I don't know, QB10 or QB1, QB2, who knows? And then you get to just brag online that, hey, oh, you don't have the game? Couldn't be me. And then of course, then it's like, let's start doing the rosters.
Yeah, and I'm going to just punch something up here just so that people recognize they're not just going to be looking at us the whole time. We do have other stuff. We have images. We were going to actually run through the whole trailer for you here in a minute. We pulled the video down, so we can talk about that in a little bit as well. But yeah, some impressive stuff. This looks a lot sharper, a lot nicer than the last time I was controlling a. I think the last one they made for PS2 was whatever year they had Tim Tebow on the cover, I believe. So that has been a hot minute. So yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to this. I am definitely looking forward to not having to either put in the rosters myself manually or mail away a memory card along with $10 or whatever it was to some random dude who then would copy it over in maybe one of the greatest early 2000s grind set examples that I can think of. Just sit there and put in all 85 rosters, put it on a memory card, and then sell it over and over and over and over again. That was an incredible business model, but Tony, thanks to NIL, that is a thing of the past.
Yeah, and it is interesting in some of these shots to just see the names on the back of the jersey. Basically, everybody that has opted in, other than, of course, Arch Manning and maybe a couple of others, but you see there from Wyoming. Tom, name the first player of that. The first name of that player there.
Kerr, I believe that's John Kerr, former Ohio State linebacker and former Indiana linebacker from the early 2000s. I think he still has eligibility.
Good to know. And so yeah, the amount of editing we won't have to do is fantastic. I would also you get it and you start editing right away, even though you're going to be sending it off. So it's like the Dynasty you're playing right now is not going to be the Dynasty that carries over, but you don't care. You've got a week. You just you've taken the entire week off of work. You've called in sick. Let's just make some use of it. But yeah, you see there, the cut scenes are pretty phenomenal and well beyond anything we've seen in college. It's pretty standard in terms of Madden, and kind of gets to my my main concern. If I don't know, do we want to go ahead and throw the trailer up? And
sure, let's throw the trailer up. And they had Guns N' Roses "Welcome to the Jungle" put over this, so I had to remove that so that we don't get a copyright strike. So here we go. Here we'll roll the trailer, and we should be able to talk over it.
And so it's a lot of stuff like this, and then you start to see some gameplay. My concern, as you look at all of the stuff that you see before games, I wonder if will they show the entire Clemson bus ride around the stadium? And then you see Dabo. Is Dabo in the game, or is still going to just be Clemson coach, or how are they going to do that? Have him run down the hill, and some of these, like, is this animation, or is this the actual camera? Is this actual video? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Penn State shot that's coming up, I think here is the one that I went, wow, that looks exactly like it looks if you're at Penn State on the whiteout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there it
Like, you've
is.
had
That's
photos of that.
yeah, yeah. And the cutscene animation is always
Mm-hmm.
better than the in-game animation because it's a standard thing. The same guy raises his arms at the same point and does the exact same thing every single time. So it's it's not, this is the gameplay, and these gameplay animations, a lot of those look like replays rather than actually the game. I did not notice the first time I watched through that you went straight from a shot of Donovan Edwards stiff arming Lathan Ransom to a shot of Kyle McCord playing quarterback for Syracuse. I missed that the first time through.
Same.
That's that, and boy, there's a lot of Wyoming in here for some reason. Were my two big takeaways, I think.
I would have preferred to see some actual gameplay, but I can understand them not dropping it initially because that's kind of boring, and it's kind of some of the minutia that I'm looking for. Whereas you want everything to look spectacular, and you're like, oh, this definitely has a bunch of wow factor to it, and it has got some people pretty fired up. Some of the hardcore people like me, the old timers, are like, yeah, but how does it really work? And is it just Madden? Because if it's just Madden, it's going to be disappointing. But everybody's still going to get it, and we'll deal with it at that point.
We got a couple of comments we want to get to here. Jordan Kapler, fan of mine, obviously. If it doesn't have a halftime event where you can play knocker ball, I'm not buying. Now, I mean, I would be all for that. I would love a knocker ball. Frankly, I would play a knocker ball video game, just a standalone video game. Like, that feels like one. It can't be that hard to put together. And
interestingly, there used to be a baseball game. I don't know if it was MLB The Show or whatever it was before that. Me and an old roommate of mine who we would play an in-game edition where we'd be on the same team. Like, I would be a second baseman and he would be like a shortstop. And we created this game where you can run into each other, and it's like whoever would fall down in the wrong way, like who would ever end up on their back, loses. And there's a lot like the Homer versus Bart, pans on the head running into each other down the hallway. And meanwhile, like, you got everybody else around the game, and the announcers are just talking, like, trying to fill time while we're doing these little mid-game things. And that would be a fantastic mid-game. You're hitting the A and a B or whatever, and you triangle a square, trying to get as much speed as you can for the knocker ball. And then, Madden has all kinds of mini games, and training camp, it used to have stuff like that. Knocker ball would be fantastic. I don't believe Ohio State submitted that as part of their assets, though, unfortunately.
Well, that's really maybe one of the greatest failures of the university of the last at least decade or so. But there was a game, I think it might have been, was it Blades of Steel, where there was a game between periods 2 and 3, I believe, of the hockey game, where you got to play like a little mini, like, asteroids kind of game on the scoreboard. It was one of those Nintendo sports games, and I think it might have been Blades of Steel, but yeah, that is certainly a valued part of video game history, let's say. So yeah, too bad it's not on there. Christian Smith says, I know she just does basketball, but is there any way to get Red Panda involved? That would be, that's one of those. I don't know if the physics engine can keep up with Red Panda and the ball flip from the foot to the top of the head and the unicycle. Like, that feels like that might even be stressing the Madden engine a little bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you want to talk about mini games? That one would be a fantastic one. How many balls could you get up onto your head, and while you're also maintaining like the left stick riding the unicycle? Also, wouldn't mind seeing the guy that stacks the chairs and climbs up on the chairs. That would be another good one. Or maybe for the kids, the frisbee dog one. And that way you only have to do so much. You can just throw a frisbee, the dog goes and gets it and brings it back. That wouldn't be bad. I will say, Tom, that this game is not entirely realistic, because we saw Donovan Edwards running and pushing Lathan Ransom down. Lathan Ransom, of course, did not play in last year's game. So this entire video game thing is a figment of somebody's imagination.
Well, it did show Donovan Edwards going about 3 yards, and
Hmm.
that was about what he averaged last year. So, I mean, that part was realistic. Yeah, a lot of comments about the Donovan Edwards piece of this. First look at the trailer is a Buckeye, and a Buckeye is a white Lathan Ransom getting stiff armed by Donovan Edwards, and that makes me sad. I mean, you had to know that was coming. He's one of the cover athletes. They're going to put Quinn Ewers in there. They're going to put Donovan Edwards in there. They're going to put Travis Howard in there. The one that I thought they really did dirty was Quinn Ewers, who throws a pass, and then it cuts from that to a shot from a different game where there's a defensive back intercepting a pass. It's not a pass from it. It's not the same pass, but if you're not paying attention, it looks like Quinn Ewers is throwing an interception in the game where he's one of the cover athletes. So that one was,
Jalen Milroe spinning into a sack also was, not cool.
Yeah. There was, here's another one. We saw the Illbuck, though. Of course, it was in the hands of Illinois. I didn't see the Illbuck. You know what? Let's play this again, and let's go through and see how much we missed. Hang on, I might need to re-rack this. There we go.
Please be kind and rewind.
So Clemson, Howard's Rock, Notre Dame touching the sign, coming down the tunnel, Boston College, sure, absolutely. Florida with the Gator head. LSU touching the goalpost, I think that is.
You need to have one from Iowa where they're just flying right above the stadium, like right above the press box.
The pink locker room at Iowa would be.
There you go.
If that's in there. Yeah, there's Bevo.
Bevo looks fantastic.
I've never seen Bevo that lively before, but the Wisconsin shot there in the tunnel is fantastic. That's a really well rendered shot.
I would like to see Uga get after some people.
Mm-hmm. There's a really nice touch there in the Baylor shot. I think there's a bunch of people on the field. I want to go back and look at that. But Baylor has this thing where the whole student body is out on the field, and that's like a real specific Baylor tradition. That's like a really good attention to detail. There's Kyle McCord faking a handoff.
But also with this game, the stands and the sidelines are very like previously it would just be very static. Where this is like there's a bunch of people in the way.
Yeah.
Which for a photographer like you, Tom, you must hate.
Oh man. Just fill me with rage.
Let's watch him spin into the sack here.
Yeah.
Poor cameraman. You should not have cameras out on the field. Some of these angles are pretty fantastic, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these are all, as we said, these are all replay angles and all cutscene angles because they want it to look.
Oh, there it was.
Okay. Yeah, we'll back up. Let's see. There, Illinois. How about that? Illinois
fantastic.
With a 52-42, it looks like win over Ohio State in the cutscene. Boy,
and that's this year. Is that right?
No, they don't play Illinois this year. I don't think so. Yeah, so Dynasty. So you have that to look forward to. Illinois football about to get amazing.
That's bold. I mean, that lets you know that anything is possible. They play there in 2025, so that's there you go. Next year, boy, if you are Illinois and you can win that turtle, that is right up there. That's better than winning a national championship. That wooden turtle.
Yeah, that first shot of the blue field at Boise is fantastic. They do. CJ says it's funny they don't show Clemson and Howard's Rock with all those teams touching something. They do show Clemson. Didn't they show Howard's Rock at the very beginning? They showed a bunch of Clemson.
Yeah, I thought we saw, or maybe were they already on the field at that?
Maybe they were coming.
We saw Howard's Rock, but they didn't touch it. Maybe
they didn't touch it. Yeah.
Like one of the first things.
Yeah. That was. I don't know. I would have hoped. Yeah, Clemson was in there a bunch for sure. Jordan Kapler super chat says, "What directional school are you taking to the championship?" Tony, I know you have a. Were you North Texas? No, you.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So that feels like that's probably going to be your answer.
Yeah. No, that is definitely my answer. I wasn't born in Denton, but my heart is in Denton, Texas, with the North Texas Mean Green Eagles. Like what is the official name?
They're the Mean Green. They are also the team that I constantly used to confuse with Texas State from the Necessary Roughness movie because it was a Texas school, sort of a directional Texas school that wore green and white. And it was like, well, where is Scott Bakula? Where is Kathy Ireland? This is how you make it. This is how you make it. You know what? They probably have a creator player thing, and you probably could make quarterback Scott Bakula for North Texas.
But his name is not actually Scott Bakula. It's something else in the movie. You put their age on there, 42. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It takes a while to build that up, especially simming. And so, yeah, North Texas. What about you, Tom? It doesn't have to be directional, but
yeah. See, I always would play with Navy just because my younger brother went to the Naval Academy, so I have a family tie there, and Navy is one of those schools that if you can get the offense just right, oh man, do people hate to play you? It is just a miserable experience. Oh, do you like exactly 3.4 yards of fullback dive every single play? Oh boy. How low can I get the play clock? Can I get it to 2 every time? Snapped it on 1 and you jumped off sides there. Oh boy. Yeah, I am all about ruining everyone else's good time, and Navy is a great team to do that with.
Yeah, if you're going to play Tom, play him early in the season. You don't want to have to deal with that offense later in the year. It will be interesting to just get back to all of the option stuff and things like that. And you can do that in Madden as well, but it's very much not the same. I'm just wondering how many dynasties I'll have going on at the same time. Utah State is.
Yeah, CJ says got to do Utah State. Such a beautiful area up there in Logan, Utah. If you're not familiar with Logan, Utah, it's like northern Utah. It's north of Salt Lake City, up in the mountains, and that is a very beautiful area. Different kind of area. Coastal Carolina with the teal field. I mean, that is an entire mood. You need to grow out a mullet if you're going to play a dynasty with Coastal Carolina, but you get a mullet, you get a handlebar, you get a lifetime contract. I don't know. CJ says they need Eastern Washington now with the red field. I don't know. I think they're doing FBS teams, aren't they?
Well, they've done the FCS in the past, but it was just like FCS West, FCS South.
Remember that? You could play like MEAC and SWAC teams, and you could play, Ivy League teams. Like I remember, putting Columbia on my schedule or Norfolk State or something like that, just to have one of those like 900-yard kind of days.
Yeah, I think now, at least with the red field, you don't have to worry about it like burning into your television. So like now you could probably do it and it would be safe. You wouldn't have to worry about that now.
Yeah, boy, that red field. I hate watching games on that red field. That's the one that is. I turn into Jerry from the Kenny Rogers Roasters. My rods and cones. Our good buddy Omar Austin. Great to hear from you, Omar. We just had lunch with Omar like a month and a half ago, and then I think I saw he was hanging out with Kevin and Mark on the Southern Swing as well. So
he was slumming.
It wasn't as good. The second time without us wasn't as good. You don't need to say it. We all know it's okay. He says, "Are we sharing gamer tags and gambling, boys? League play, maybe." Yeah, I think that's going to be probably something I'm going to guess we'll get that in there. I would actually need to buy a video game system. As I said off the top of the show, the last one I had was a PS2. So I will at some point need to buy one between now and November or July 19th. And then I can get a gamer tag. But I think I have a feeling we will have maybe a members only league on our board or something like that. I always used to love doing that. Even just with my roommates when I was in college, we'd have to, pick a team, and it was, the rule was no one could be Ohio State and no one could be, any of the really powerhouse teams, but it was, one of us was Purdue and one of us was Ole Miss and one of us was whoever else and Arizona State. And we would just have kind of a league, and we'd play a round robin non-conference and all that kind of stuff. That was always so much fun. It feels like this could be, every bit as fun or more playing online. Tony is absolutely going to do the oops, I got disconnected. I don't know what happened.
Now, do I buy a gamer tag at a store? Is that where I get one of those things? I do remember, I think back in the Ozone days, way back when, I think a bunch of us did like Mac schools. We were just Mac school. So you played quite a bit, but you're like, you can't move a week until like everybody plays. And so you're like waiting for one guy, and it can sometimes be annoying, but yeah, we'll be doing something like that. And who knows what the possibilities are, but it should be fun. And of course, we've all been waiting, and the mods aren't, I've looked into like the NCAA 14 mod, and it's just very complicated. And I see all of the reviews and like, here's all the instructions, and then below these are like 4,000 comments. I've done everything that you said, and it doesn't work. It's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. And so I would definitely be in that. Like, this doesn't work for me. And now I think the FBI is after me.
We had, when I think the statute of limitations on this had expired. I was roommates with an engineering major, and there was a chip you could solder into your old PlayStation 1 that allowed you to play burned games. And then you could go to Blockbuster Video. Boy, I'm not sure which part of this is the most dated. PlayStation 1, Blockbuster Video. You could go to the Blockbuster Video on the corner of I think 12th and High, 13th and High, something like that. And rent a game, and then if you wanted to burn that game, then you could play it on the modded PlayStation. So that was that was a thing you could do. Again, statute of limitations probably expired now, and not my crime. So therefore,
I think you could buy blank discs at the Circuit City.
You could buy them at the Circuit City. Yes.
Media Play.
Yes. Let's see. Yeah, Omar says definitely wasn't the same without you. Mark was great. Kevin was there. Yeah, agreed. I mean, that boy. I feel like I should send you a super chat, because that is as accurate as anything anyone can imagine. That's the full experience. Jordan Kapler, if you're reading this, I think it needs to be a Kevin year again. I think you've had your 4.5 months, and now it's a Kevin year again, because
it's felt like a year, hasn't it?
Spiritually, it's always a Kevin year. So. I do. Let's run through this one more time. I'm going to have to once again bop it back to the beginning.
Yeah,
but
that field looks good.
Yeah, that looks good. There's Howard's Rock, and there's plenty of it. Plenty of the stuff. What's amazing in the cutscenes is all the attention to detail. The shine on the shiny helmets, and the light changing colors in the tunnel, and as you're going under purple lights and then not under purple lights, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, Jordan says you could get them at the Radio Shack. That is true. I think that might still be true. But there's a lot of. I wonder if you have to. I know that there's been all sorts of talk about microtransactions and what you're going to be able to, what you're going to have to pay for. I wonder if you're Clemson, if you have to have some kind of separate microtransaction to get someone out of the portal. Like if everyone else can do it, and then, but sorry, Dabo says you can't.
It's probably more of a macro transaction, just because it is so far against the grain. Like, you're really going to have to, that might be a mod actually.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting. The teams that they've got in this thing. It's like, oh, there's Syracuse, there's Appalachian State, there's Duke, there's Wyoming. It is definitely not not just all the big people. Army.
And only 2 shots of Ohio State.
And
one of them is, go ahead.
I'm going to back this up. Is that Pitt? Yeah, that is Pitt. The turnover basketball hoop. I was trying to decide if that was Pitt or Florida International. It is Pitt.
It's the Panthers.
It is. Who are we going to beat? Now, the Miami shot showed a full crowd, so that's a little bit unrealistic.
Well, like I said, yeah. And now, so you had 2 shots of Ohio State. One is Lathan Ransom getting planted. Another is Brutus Buckeye punching himself in the head. And then right after that is Ohio State losing 52-42 to Illinois. I think EA Sports is the new ESPN. EA Sports hates Ohio State.
Yeah. The shot here of is that Texas? That's Texas. Yeah, that's Texas. I was going to say, I thought that was Nebraska first, and I'm like, that's not what the tunnel walk looks like. That's not where they come onto the field, but it is not. It is not Nebraska. So
now I'm interested about all of the copyright stuff with Virginia Tech in terms of the music, and because I know didn't Matt Brown say they're trying to get all of that stuff copyrighted and paid for.
Yeah. So Matt Brown, who writes the Extra Points newsletter, Granville, Ohio native, he has been just kind of the leading reporter on this stuff. He writes a kind of national college sports newsletter and talks a lot about, what is the, WAC realignment or West Coast Conference realignment, or, nitty gritty stuff. He just did something that was really interesting on swim coaches and the challenges of swim coaches. So it's kind of all over the board, but he's been all over the NCAA EA Sports game. He had, back in April, had the exact date that the trailer would come out. He had the exact date that the game was going to come out. He had a bunch of details on the cover athletes. So he's had a lot of detail on this. And, I think what he talked about was they submitted all of these schools. You could check via Freedom of Information Act, and Tony did that for Ohio State. What these schools actually submitted in terms of, hey, they submitted this clip of the victory bell ringing at Ohio Stadium. So if they choose to animate the victory bell in this for Ohio State, this is the clip that it's going to be based on. And, so there are schools that have, South Carolina has Sandstorm, for example, that they use as a song, or Virginia Tech uses the Metallica, Enter Sandman. And so they have to figure out, they would have to license that music. So the school submitted it. EA has to just, decide if it's worth paying to license it. I sure hope they license NEC for LSU, just because that is one of my extremely favorite stupid college football things. But, it's still a little up in the air, and EA's being a little bit cagey about a lot of this stuff right now, where they're being real selective about what they put out, because there's so much interest in this right now that they don't want to put it, they don't want to just fire hose everything out there right now. They're giving you just a drip, drip, drip of information. So yeah, we don't know yet whether all of that stuff's going to be in there, but the answer is maybe.
CJ saying Wisconsin and Jump Around would be sick.
Uh-huh.
You could have that entire crowd going, and then the vantage point from the press box where everything is shaking.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of really fantastic scenes in college football, and I do believe EA Sports is trying to get as many of those as possible. It's just also there's the business aspect of it, where Metallica famously loves to give their music out. Might be a difficult one there, but all of these companies are owned by the same person anyway, so why can't you just have some synergy there?
Well, and the Darude, who's the guy who did Sandstorm, came to South Carolina for a game last year. He's somewhere in Scandinavia, Swedish, Danish, Norwegian. I don't remember what he is. Finnish. One of those countries that eats like a bunch of fish and is cold. But he's from one of those areas in Europe, and came over, was a little bemused that 20 whatever years after Sandstorm was a thing, that it is still like a huge thing at this one this one college football stadium. So and Ohio State has Hang On Sloopy. Ohio State would probably submit the band version. CJ says, I'd love to see it. Love a soundtrack in the game with marching bands. You're probably going to get lots of marching bands, because that music is probably already licensed, and then you just get it through the school. And if you're getting it through the school, that's probably covered under the the standard agreement. So licensing Hang On Sloopy with the Ohio State marching band playing it is probably a lot easier than licensing Mr. Brightside, for example, for Michigan, or Zombie Nation for Penn State, or Jump Around for Wisconsin.
White Stripes
everywhere. Yes,
that's going to be. You would think they would have that one. Zombie Nation. You would think they would have like that, where these things that become college football anthems. But back in the day, like, this is how every single fight song became recognizable, because it's like playing during the menu screen as you're scrolling. What am I going to do? And it's just you learn all of these songs, these pieces of music throughout the course of playing the game.
Well, you would hear them, and then you're like, then you hear it later during a game. You're like, oh, it's your fight song. I don't remember what it was. Was it Utah? There was someone Ohio State was playing a couple of years ago that I was like, oh, that's where that's from. Because, if you didn't play Utah in the game, or whatever team it was, you would hear the music on the menu screen, and you're like, oh, that's someone's fight song. I don't know who it is. And Shazam was not a thing back then, so you couldn't just figure it out. So, and Googling whose college fight song goes do 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 do, that doesn't work either. So Yeah, it was just kind of this mystery, and then you would just every once in a while you'd hear a team that you hadn't played against in the game and
Mhm.
go, "Oh yeah, okay." Colorado's was kind of like that. Yeah, there were a few like that, but yeah, it's a good that's a nice little side benefit, and I'm sure there will be plenty of fight songs in the game. That is Kay asks, will we doing it? Will we be doing an online Dynasty? I would guess that we will have something going on the huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse at BuckeyeHuddle.com, where we could theoretically have every single member takes a school and plays an online league. I don't know if you can play cross-platform or not. Can you play if you're on an Xbox? Can you play a PlayStation person or vice versa?
That's the way it's been able to be done with like Madden and things like that. So the assumption is that you will be able to do that, but like we've gotten so little information from EA on this. Like, well, they've got 2 months to sparse the rest of this out, but it would be nice to get some actual schematics and just basic information.
Yeah, I'm also interested in some of the real nuts and bolts on if you're going to do a dynasty. How does how does the transfer portal work?
Mm.
How do the mechanics of that work? What are you doing NIL stuff? Is that something that's part of the game? I would guess that it probably is, but how does that work? Do you have the option to cheat? That's all stuff that you think back to, even 20 years ago, you could promise guys stuff and then renege on the promise. And, that would come back to bite you like, oh, sorry, I told you could wear this jersey number, but actually, no. I told you could start as a freshman, but actually, no. And that was one of those things that could come back to bite you later. But, you know, I'm trying to picture be running a program and then your NIL collective fails to deliver on promises made to star freshman, yada yada yada, and then he leaves Florida and goes to somewhere else.
Well, and that's where there needs to be sliders. Like, how dramatic do you want this to be? How realistic do you want it to be? Do you want it to be like the movie The Program, where anything that can happen in college sports is going to happen this year, or do you want it to be realistic and where it could possibly happen? But I'm wondering, like, all the microtransactions for Madden, I believe, is basically just like online dynasty stuff like that, or online franchises and things like that when you're playing against other people. Like, I will play Madden just self-contained as a franchise, and I don't need to do any of that because it just I'm not trying to get Walter Payton in my backfield because he sadly has passed away. Um, so I'm just playing with the team that I've got, but I do wonder if you're just keeping it self-contained, how do you improve your collective? You know, how do you improve, like, how in depth do you want this to get? Because I know the latter versions of this game got way too complicated, in my opinion, in terms of the recruiting. I think maybe like 2012 or the 12 game was probably maybe the pinnacle of the recruiting. But I do also remember at some point you could like shade towards being shifty in recruiting, but you might get caught and there could be some NCAA violations that would be handed down. But I do wonder how involved, because if you make it too involved, then it's like I'm just bogged down with, like, you're like you're Ryan Day. Like, I'm just bogged down with all this other crap. I would like to actually deal with the game, you know?
Well, and I wonder how the NIL piece of this might play into that, where it's no longer quarterback number 10, now it's Julian Sayin. And, how would that impact, if it was just halfback number 3, then, well, if this guy did something wrong or got suspended, then that's one thing. If
Mm.
it's this is your name, this is your image, and you have licensed it to us, and we are saying that you knocked off a liquor store, like, well, how is that going to go over with with the name, image, and likeness piece of this? So I don't know if that might limit what you're able to do in terms of rule bending in terms of existing players. Maybe you could do it with high school recruits who are not in the
Mm.
game and who are ended up functionally creative players. I also wonder at some point, does as the NIL piece goes through high school, and that's true in some places.
Oh,
Ohio does not have high school NIL, could you have, hey, here's the next year's recruits. You've signed that, whatever it is, 30 of the top 100 players. So some of the recruits are actual recruits and some of the recruits are just fake recruits. I mean, it feels like you could really, depending on how this goes over the next several years, this could really get like crazy in depth, like some of those, like some of those really, really in depth fantasy football leagues or fantasy baseball leagues where people are like drafting like high school kids for an NFL league and just stashing them in their developmental system for like 5 years.
That's too involved for me in terms of I believe EA has said that they will have some ways, some safeguards so that you can't create Arch Manning. Okay. So there's no combination of those words that will be allowed. And so I think if you kind of start trying to get these high school kids involved, then it just becomes just something that you don't need to deal with. But like if a kid is saying like, you can't use my name, you almost would just want to steer clear of the high school thing entirely. Like you're still going to be able to create recruits, but you don't even want to acknowledge them. Like you don't even want to make eye contact with the high school recruits and names and image and likenesses. But again, at that point, it's all user created. So this is some protection from EA, even though they could have released this for the past decade with no names and just let the creators do what they've always done. But it seems like they've just wanted to, like, you know what? We are going to be on the up and up on all of this. We're going to be as fair and balanced and as we can. But now the high school aspect of it, it's interesting because that NIL stuff is going to start happening, but I think they're going to want to steer clear of that and not even get involved in that and just let the users do what they do. And then what was great about one of the many things that was great about the old game is you could create a recruit him, sometimes land him. And there are a few things worse than creating a recruit specifically so that he can join your team and then having him go to like your rival. But you can create a recruit, you get them through recruiting through their 3 or 4 years at your school, and then you can then draft them, import the draft class into Madden and carry that along. And I would expect that to be able to continue. But again, we have no confirmation of that, but I don't know why they would not do that in this, and when they've got all of this synergy going on. And I've said synergy now 3 times in this show.
You are so corporate. Kelvin says, I hope the create a school option is brought back. That was a popular one when I was in college. People would just kind of make a team and you could make them terrible and then slowly build them up. I used to try and put like the University of Alaska at Nome or something like that. And like, okay, how difficult can I make recruiting? Like, all right, fire up the dog sled, boys. We got to go get this tight ends. Like it is, I got to tell you, there's not a lot of naturally developing high school football talent out of the state of Alaska. So that is, if you want to go be the University of Alaska Fairbanks Polar Bears, by all means, if that is in the game, that is a challenging way to go.
You know how the coaches want to have a fence around their state. If you're like, you're in Alaska, you're like, you know what? We don't need a fence. That's not an important fence.
You need a box with a stick is what you need there. And a big pot of honey. Yes. That's how you get. That's how you recruit there.
I would create Hamler Tech, Hamler, Ohio, of course, where I was living for a long time, and Tech being the technical school, because really, come on, I mean that's what we're going to be dealing with.
Tony thought he was spelling Hamler Teach, but that's not. That's not. It's anyway. Trey wants to know, what's your opinion on Ultimate Team making another appearance in the college game as well? I have always been a strictly Dynasty person. Like I never played the Road to Glory or whatever the individual player thing was. I was always just go in, start your Dynasty, play your Dynasty for 40 years, lather, rinse, and repeat the next year. What about you?
Well, and I think this Ultimate Team is like a Madden thing where you can achieve former greats and have like a Walter Payton on your team, or that's where some microtransactions come in. So I think there's going to be that in this one, because we've seen that's what the like if you buy the next level up of this game, you get like 4,600 points that you can apply to something. And so I would assume there's going to be some, but it may just be this alternate uniform, or now you get to hold Illabuck. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, because we haven't seen really many former players talking about I'm in the game, that sort of thing. And it seems like we would have by now. And so I'll be interested to see what exactly the extent of that is there, because when you play online, everybody is like trying to have this best team ever, because that's the only way they can compete. They can't just compete with like the team that they're given, because they're soft. That's the kids today, Tom. They're soft.
I would not mind starting with Mississippi Valley State and then just, oh, look, I've got Jerry Rice now. How about that? Well, guess where the ball's going an awful lot. Hope he doesn't get hurt. So someone saw Braxton Miller, and it needs Braxton Miller on Ultimate Team. Saw him reach out a couple weeks ago to EA Sports. Yeah, I don't know if that's something that is going to be, if he's someone that would be in that game or not. I'm sure he would love to be. I think one of the things that's different now is this is not shipping on a CD-ROM or a DVD. This is shipping, this is going to be download. So you can, even if they don't have Braxton Miller in the game immediately, that might be something that they can add later on as up, and now you can get him.
Yeah, the DLC, the downloadable content that is always like add-ons after the fact. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some of that as a way to just continue to make the game new, but also, hey, let's make more money.
When isn't that the goal?
Tom, I will say I have two real regrets in my childhood. And the first was kindergarten, when there were 3 Tony G's in the class. I was one of them. I was the most talented of them. And for Christmas, we made these Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer construction paper cutouts, and we all put Tony G on them, right? And then when it was time to take those home, somebody took mine, right? And I knew it was mine, and my regret is not speaking up and saying, hey, that's mine. And so when I get home and I show my mother this Rudolph that I did not do, that much lesser Rudolph, imagine if Sloth from Goonies was a construction paper cutout of Rudolph. That's what that would look like. And so there was disappointment in the house that day. The second main regret I have as a child is EA Sports way back, I don't know, like 1991 or 92 or whatever. You buy one game and you got to send away for a second, or you buy 2 and you got to send away for a third. I think I got Madden, and I wanted to get Bill Walsh college football, but it was like, it wasn't going to be in stock for like another 2 months. So I went and instead I got like Mario Andretti Racing. And I was like, oh gosh, I wish I would have gotten Walsh, but it's like, I need something now. I need it now, need it now, need it now. And that Andretti Racing, you had codes for your NES, and it's like your save codes. And the problem with it is that the zeros and the O's look exactly the same on a 27-inch console television. So like none of this is savable. So I lost out on that. So that 2 major regrets, and that one involving the EA Sports. So it is good that we're finally maybe getting to a point where this thing is finally back. I've come full circle, Tom. No longer have any regrets in my life, because I can remedy some deep Tony lore here, very deep. And I said all of that to say this. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And of course, we've got we'll be doing some online dynasties and stuff like that. Don't worry about it. Andretti Racing. Oh, Jesus, that is child abuse. But it was a free game, so is it really that bad? I was pretty good. NASCAR was much different, more difficult version of the game. The IndyCar was pretty good until, of course, the save points, and then you're kind of out of luck. It's just like 16 letters of a code. You'd have to write it down. You're like 0 or O. I'll figure it out which one it is later. And then you've got like, if there's 3 of them in there, you're like, I'm never going to get this combination right. There's no chance of this happening. So anyway, I want to thank you all for tuning in. It's a happy day. The game, the trailer is out there. Go check it out. And I'm sure we'll be getting more and more information over these next 2 months. And we'll talk about it here and there. We won't always break in to do it, but we thought this was a special occasion, and we wanted to do that, talk with you guys here. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the questions. Thanks for hitting the thumbs up on the video. And check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Now is a great time to become a member. Running our spring sale for an annual subscription right now. So go grab that while you can. It won't be there much longer. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.